Hello and welcome, the good people of America, with another installment of The Daily Show with Rick Williams and Dick Smith. I'm Rick Williams.
And I'm Dick Smith.
How you feeling today, Dick?
Not too shabby. How about you?
Feeling swell. So today, Dick Smith will present a little investigative segment on the heroic whistleblower, Edward Snowden.
Well, we all know this hero of ours, Edward Snowden, who released NSA's supposed secrets on the National Conflicting Surveillance Program. In recent reports, NSA officials are considering a very controversial amnesty that would return Edward Snowden in exchange for the extensive document that this heroic whistleblower took from the agency. Snowden in Russia, granted a year-long asylum, has brought international intrigue all over the world. Now back to you, Rick.
That was great. Now we go to Lior Fukushi.
Our special, in-depth, and on-site reporter in the Middle East.
Robert Levinson, an American CIA agent, vanished 7 years ago while working in secret on an unapproved intelligence gathering mission, which produced one of the most serious scandals in CIA history. A team of analysts with no authority to run spy operations paid Levinson to gather intelligence from some of the world's darkest corners. He vanished while investigating the Iranian government for the U.S. Details of the disappearance were described in documents by Associated Press and other anonymous officials. The CIA paid Levinson's family $2.5 million to head off a revealing lawsuit. Last month, the White House stated, Robert Levinson went missing during a business trip to Kish Island, Iran. However, this was just a cover story. There is no confirmation of who captured Levinson or who has him now, but officials believe Iran holds him or knows who does. National Security Council spokeswoman Caitlin Hayden said on Thursday that U.S. officials urged the news not to run the story because of concern for Levinson's life. The investigation continues and officials are committed to finding Levinson and bringing him safely to his family. Back to you.
Thanks, Lior Cohen. Cohen? Or Fukushi?
I don't think you said that right.
I don't think it matters.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Thank you. Alright, so we're going to go to Alexia Gomez. She has a report on some illicit material.
It's very disgusting.
Thanks, Rick and Dick. This is Alexia Gomez reporting on the Laskin scandal. Lamar Alexander Senator aide Ryan Laskin was recently arrested for the distribution and possession of child pornography. Alexander was shocked and said this, I was just informed by United States Senate Legal Counsel's office that law enforcement agents are conducting a search of the personal residence of Ryan Laskin, the chief of staff of my Washington, D.C. office regarding allegations involving child pornography. Laskin was immediately put on leave without pay, and Alexander said this, under these circumstances, he cannot continue to fulfill his duties as chief of staff of this office. Now back to Rick and Dick.
Thanks, Alexia Lopez. I'm sure everyone enjoyed that as much as I did. Now to add some spice to our broadcast.
Here's some Latin flavor with an in-depth report on immigration. Here's Sophia Rivera.
Governor Jerry Brown signed a bill recently granting driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. According to Brown, this is only the first step. When 1 million people without their documents drive legally with respect to the state of California, the rest of this country will have to stand up and take notice. An estimated 1.4 million immigrants are expected to apply for the special permits. The licenses will have special marks on them to identify them as strictly driver's licenses, not federal identification. California DMV officials will begin developing eligibility guidelines, and the licenses probably won't be issued until late 2014 or early 2015. The legislation suggests using documents such as passports, lease agreements, or birth certificates to establish identity. Processing the flood of applications will cost approximately $140 million to $220 million in the first 3 years. This is considered an important expansion of immigrants' rights and should be seen as an example for the rest of the country. Back to you, Rick and Dick.
Now we'll be transferring to a segment with my pal, Rick Williams, and a special political correspondent.
Hello, the good people of America. This is Rick Williams with another edition of The Special Report with Luke Williams. So, today we have Jessica Lee, one of the best political correspondents in the business, in my opinion, and not bad looking either.
Well, thank you, Rick. That's very nice of you.
I know, I'm a very nice guy. So, we are so fortunate to have you on the show today, and we have a lot to go over. The budget deal is a top priority. Where are you flying in from, by the way?
Washington.
Washington.
Yeah.
Great city.
Yeah.
What's going on down there? I'm just joking, the budget deal. All right. So recently, the subject of a new bipartisan budget deal has arisen, catching the attention of the media. Would you care to elaborate?
Well, basically, this budget deal was proposed to avoid any more government shutdowns. There are 3 things you need to know about the congressional budget deal. So, many had high hopes that in the first budget deal conference in 4 years would make a substantial down payment toward fixing U.S. spending and debt crisis. The new bipartisan budget act thoroughly disappoints, however.
Sorry.
Yeah, the first thing is that it busters supposed spending caps. The way Congress operates, it's ridiculous for members to set spending caps. They just keep busting right through them. The deal announced yesterday raises discretionary spending above the bipartisan spending agreement forged in 2011 as part of the Budget Control Act. Spending for defense and non-defense domestic programs would be raised by $45 billion in 2014 and $18 billion in 2015.
It's a whole lot of moolah.
Once again, Congress is falling to its old and destructive habit of trading more spending in one area for more spending in another. This is a bad compromise that keeps increasing spending when just a little more effort to eliminate bad government programs and reduce wasteful spending could have saved taxpayers' money instead.
Seems like we're living beyond our means in this country.
Well, I mean,
A common problem.
It taxes and spends. The agreement says that increased spending is fully offset somewhere else in the budget. So basically, they're using a mix of spending cuts and non-tax revenue. Make no mistake, raising revenue to spend more is simply taxing and spending. If anything, automatic spending cuts could be exchanged for targeted spending cuts. Trading spending cuts for more revenue, however, grows the burden of government. After all, Washington suffers from a spending problem, not a revenue one.
Which goes back to the beyond the means.
Right.
So I believe you had one more part to talk about?
Yeah, so the last part is that it spends now and delays savings till later. The budget deal would spend $63 billion more over the next 2 years, but take 10 years to make up for this splurge.
That's outrageous.
I mean, this is a common Washington gimmick, right? The conferee's credit, the deal suggests 1/3 in additional deficit reduction, the details of which remain to be evaluated. The budget conferees failed to make substantive reforms to the real drivers in spending and debt, the entitlement programs.
Those are the real problems, entitlement programs?
Well, they are the real drivers of spending
They're
and
the
debt.
catalysts, they're not even the problem.
They're not.
Interesting.
So Representative Paul Ryan and Senator Patty Murray forged a deal that would increase spending immediately while delaying deficit reduction till later and trading spending cuts for more revenue. Far more simply being another missed opportunity. This deal keeps the nation on its fiscal collision course.
Yeah, opposed to falling off the fiscal cliff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Pretty bad. So I think our last point before we go is it Murray or Murray?
Definitely Murray.
Definitely Murray?
Mm-hmm.
Like Andy Murray, the little tennis
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. So before we go, I have one more last question for you. Do you believe it should have taken this long to come up with a plan?
You know, Rick, in all actuality, it should have been proposed years ago. The fact that it took 3 years and a government shutdown to essentially split the difference, or more specifically, set spending levels for the next 2 years between Republican and Democrats is sort of absurd, in my opinion.
Ludicrous, in fact.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, you've been a great
Well,
correspondent.
thank you for having me. I enjoyed
Told you
it.
she was one of the best.
Thank you.
You never disappoint.
Thank
You
you.
never disappoint. That was great. I think our viewers are very well informed on the budget deal.
I
And,
should have said.
this is another edition of the Special Report, and Rick Williams signing off. That about sums up the Daily Show with Rick Williams and Dick Smith. I'm Rick Williams.
And I'm Dick Smith.
And this is our little pal Rosie.
She bit me.